Hi, this is Hannah. I am going to be talking about the two one-act plays that we saw on the 23rd. They are The Forced Marriage and Two Precious Maidens Ridiculed, both by Moliere. So, just to give you a quick rundown so you know what's the plays were kind of about, I'm going to give you a really quick summary of the plot in like 20 seconds. So, man goes to his friend, asks him if he should get married. Friend is like, dude, you're old. Don't even think about it. Friend is like, oh, well, too late. I'm getting married to a really young, beautiful girl tonight. You're invited. So the guy's like, oh yeah, sure, go for it. Do it quickly. Then, guy hears his fiance talking to this other guy, that he loves her, that she loves him, she's only marrying this other guy for his money. So, the guy's like, oh, I don't know about this now. So he goes to his father and says, I don't want to marry your daughter anymore. But the guy's not too keen on that idea. He wants the daughter off his hands. So, he gets his son, which was two sons actually in the play, but only one in the text, to talk to this guy very nicely, kind of. Basically, they say, if you don't marry her, we're going to beat you up. So, he marries the girl, and they don't probably live very happily ever after. But, that's the first act. Then, the second act, Two Precious Maidens Ridiculed. Two girls just moved into town. These other two guys, pretty well off. Not that bad looking. Come to visit them, and they're really mean to them. So the guys are PO'd, and they want to get revenge. So they come up with this plan to trick the girls. And so they gather up their two servants who pretend to be really rich, prestigious men. And they go visit the girls one at a time. And the girls fall head over heels for them, and they're like, oh my goodness, we love you. And then the two other guys come back and we're like, hey, these are our servants. Joke's on you. And the girls are like, oh, and they're sad, and they don't get married. So, that's the two plays, shortly. And first of all, the stage. The stage I thought was really cool and interesting to look at. It had a mirror in the back. Even though it was a really small stage, it had a mirror to make it look really big and have a lot of depth. There was a lot of cool aspects to it, and but basically it looked kind of like a junkyard or like an old rundown shipyard. And I think it really fit the first act because during the first act, this rough, kind of rough around the edges, rowdy troupe of actors, this is kind of like their hangout place. And so the main guy from that troupe is the friend who advises the man about getting married. And so the group of actors kind of act out the story, and it really fit the feel of that first play. Except for the second play, it didn't so much, I didn't think, because the actors were in a lot more fancier clothes, and they didn't really use the stage like the last act did. They didn't really use all of it. They just kind of stayed in the front of the stage, and it just seemed a little more out of place, which could be because maybe the director just didn't want to change the set, or maybe because they wanted to show how the servant who was pretending to be this high prestige guy was kind of out of place in this high class of the girls, just like they were out of place in this junkyard. Or another idea would be that the two girls who were only really seeking prestige and petty things were kind of like junkyards under their fancy clothes, because they're fancy on the outside and beautiful on the outside, but not really so much on the inside. I don't know. Could be either of those or something else. Another really cool aspect was the music. There was an amazing violinist who played throughout this, and the main girl played accordion, which was really cool. They played most of their music for the whole production, I think. There might have been a few recordings, but most of the music was played by them, which really helped bring in why these actors were here. It just really, it gave it a cool atmosphere. Then those are a lot of things that I liked. There were a few things that I didn't so much like about the plays. They were both one acts, but they were both 2 hours long. So they were both pretty long, and that means that some scenes that could have been shorter and more condensed were really stretched out, and I think all of us by the end were kind of feeling like this is getting dragged out way too long. There were other scenes where that were really funny and could have been expanded, but they were really short. So it just felt like some things were too short and some things were really stretched out really long. Like the scene where the servant and the girls are getting to know each other. It just seemed like to go on forever. And both of these texts are really concise and really funny and like short and strong short stories, but these two plays just seem to stretch them out a whole too long. Also, the ending of the second act didn't actually end with the text was. They didn't really conclude with the guys coming back to tell the girls that this was their servant. So it kind of had a weird ending that didn't really conclude anything, which just bothers me because it needs a conclusion, and why do you go through all of that just to leave you hanging of what actually happened? But that's just me personally. Sorry. So I thought they were both really cool, and I really liked the text, and they were both really funny, and which was really cool because a lot of the humor is lost on us because we don't know the language. So all the Russians will be laughing and we'll be like, oh, what did they just say? That was so funny. But these ones were a lot of physical humor, so they were funny for us too. So, yep, that's all I have. See you later.